Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.
My Roach, and I listen to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Indeed you are, people. Welcome to another Caribbean Cricket Podcast edition, episode, content. Call it what you want. It's the end of day 3 of the second test between Australia and the West Indies, and we're still in it. We're still fighting. We live to see another day, and what probably should be the final day tomorrow, when Australia should wrap up the victory. I mean, first things first, admin out of the way. You should be able to see the ticker tape at the bottom. Like, share, subscribe, click that notification bell. Help us on the road to 4K YouTube subscribers. Last I checked, we were on 3,800, I think. So we need another 200 to hit 4K. So anybody who's in this live right now or watches this back on the repeat, first thing you better do is press that subscribe button. Help us on the journey. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. Loads of you in the comments. So I'm going to set a time limit on this video because I do have to go and watch Bromley versus Wealdstone in the National League. Got a report on that game for the newspaper, so this has to end by 1 o'clock at the very latest because I've got to go get to the ground, set up, and all of that stuff. But we're here to talk about the West Indies. I haven't done any reviews of day 1 or day 2 for this test, basically because I knew we were going to get absolutely destroyed, and I just didn't actually have any time. Didn't have any time to do a day 1 or day 2 review, and then it just kind of hit me as we were collapsing today. I was like, you know what, let me just do a live, and then I don't have to do a review. I don't have to do a review at the later on this evening, and obviously loads of you will be watching World Cup anyway, and so on and so forth. So yeah. Who's in the live? I mean, who's in the chat? Let me just see. Oh yeah, sorry. Always never do the proper plug-in. This is why we can't grow the podcast, because I never plug anything properly. If you want to become a patron, www.patreon.com/caribcricket. £2, $2, 2 rupees, 2 yen, 2 whatever. If you want to support, that's where you can support. But let's get into the chat, people. You can do super chats as well, in fairness. But let's get into the let's see who's in the chat. Let's see who's there. Let's get straight into some of the comments. Thomas says this, and you know what? This show might just be a you lot might lead the narrative for this show. To be honest, I might not actually bother with any kind of content myself. I think I might just go through what your chat comments are and do it that way. So Thomas says Brooks' selection on this tour is criminal. Yeah, I agree. There was no justification for Shamar Brooks to get back into the test squad. Let me see if I can try and find one. Brooks played the England series earlier this year and got dropped because he failed in all 3 tests, right? He got dropped for the Bangladesh series at home. Obviously, Holder was rested for that series, so Raymond Reefer got drafted in. It didn't work for Raymond Reefer at 3. But then Brooks got recalled for the Australia Test series. And the worrying thing for me is, and I say this with utmost respect, and I want people to know that everything I say, West Indies-wise, is never meant as any... I'm never out to just hate on anyone or slander anyone. I always say everything with respect, because my view is that any points I make, I'm basing it on actual evidence, researched evidence and knowledge of what goes on in our game. So it's never a personal thing. Brooks should never have gone, right? Because Brooks hadn't done anything in our domestic season. I think he played 3 games, possibly 4. Brooks hadn't done anything in our domestic red ball season with Barbados to justify getting a call. And because we'd won the series versus Bangladesh, I don't know how he managed to leapfrog others who had done well. In the domestic scene. Now, some of you would rightly say, but Mash, who would you have called instead? I don't know. You could have called a youngster, not to play necessarily, but you could have called a youngster to take them on tour and get used to the experience. So I guess what I'm saying is, has Brooks benefited from going on tour to Australia? Is this going to add longevity to his test career? I would say not, right? He's 33 going on 34. He might be 34 already. Was there not an opportunity to take someone like a Casey Carty, who you've already blooded into the ODI side, and take him to go play some tour matches and get used to being in somewhere like Australia? Sometimes you have to think of long-term planning and not short-term quote unquote success, because there was never going to be success on this Australia tour. We were always going to catch licks because that's what we've been doing since 1997. That wasn't suddenly going to change in 2022. So sometimes you have to plan for the future. And I just thought the Brooks selection was A, short-sighted, B, wasn't based in any statistical evidence to suggest he should have gone. And there is no C. He just shouldn't have been there. That's not to say it's his fault that we flopped. He just shouldn't have been there. Vish says that's got to be the end of the world. Just spoke about Brooks. No, it won't be the end of Chase, though. So, and this is how you know I'm balanced, because I reckon there's been no greater nuanced critique of Roston Chase than what's come through the Caribbean Cricket Podcast channels, right? But when we go to Zimbabwe, Chase has to go. How about that? I bet you lot would never think that I would say that. When we go Zimbabwe, Chase has to go because he has performed with the bat. I'm not taking Chase to Zimbabwe to play as the frontline spinner. That selection made no sense. Zero sense. I said it at the time. I tweeted it at the time. I thought it was controversial. It spoke to a level of bias of just trying to find a way to get Chase back into the setup. But what you have to say is that Chase has responded with the bat somewhat. Remember, he's been batting at number 8. Maybe you could say there's less pressure on him because he's batting at number 8. But when we go to Zimbabwe, I need to see a frontline spinner selected, ideally Rakeem Cornwall or Gudakesh Moti, and Chase can go as a top 6 batter. That doesn't mean I'm saying he must play, but I'm saying he's now played himself back into consideration as being somebody you might want to pick in the top 6. I'm not saying I would. I'm just saying his contributions with the bat have put him back into consideration. Roston Chase at his most effective is your second spinner who you can turn to because he can do bits and pieces. He is never your frontline spinner. So I expect him to go to Zimbabwe. I don't think this is the end of Chase now, to be fair. Sorry, people. And because I'm commenting, probably loads of you will be dashing comments in, and I'm going to be way, way, way behind. So listen, update your comments as and when I get to it. So Chaser scored runs. So even though he's failed as a bowler, Tom, 100%. He's going to be in. First class season can't start fast enough. Anyone score runs and you got a spot. Yeah. But the bigger response to that is, who doesn't have a spot then? After this tour wraps up tomorrow, who actually isn't playing when we get to Zimbabwe? Craig is playing, Tage is playing, Blackwood is playing, Mayers is playing, Bonner is playing once he passes concussion protocols. That's already your top 5. So who's not playing then? Do you see what I mean? Who's actually, arguably, Chase might get back in at 6, Holder at 7, Josh at 8, right? If these players even go to Zimbabwe, that's the other thing to consider, people. This series isn't part of the World Test Championship. So again, actually, maybe some long-term planning needs to take place with regards to that Zimbabwe tour, because it doesn't mean anything. Santoki and I have just recorded an episode about the World Test Championship, about how it's pointless. It don't mean anything for teams like West Indies. When we play Zimbabwe, it's got no points on the line. It has no significance. It's just a random bilateral series. Is that not the time to maybe try a couple things? I'd imagine Holder won't want to go. So I don't know. We'll see in it. In terms of the first class season, I presume it's starting in February next year. You would assume so, but I'll try and get some clarity on that. Will, my biggest fear is that they're going to give Chase a run as a batsman. Yeah, 100%. That I expect it to happen. If Chase wants to go to Zimbabwe, Chase is going to Zimbabwe. Sheldon, Lara's in the wrong place, needs to be out in the middle. He don't need to be in the commentary box. That's all I know. August, Chase, Blackwood, Brooks, Mayers, and Bonner need to go. What? Boy. Okay, check this, August. Let me comment. Let me hit you with some stats and some facts. Jermaine Blackwood, in his first 28 Test matches for West Indies, after those he got dropped, he only batted 100 innings. sorry, 100 innings. He only batted 100 balls 7 times in his first 29 or 28 Test matches. Then he got dropped for the final time, right? Upon his recall when we toured England in 2020, since then he's played 20 Test matches. He's he's batted 100 balls or more 7 times. So, and some of you will listen and go, so that's not good. But the point is, Blackwood has shown far more. Um, he's shown a far greater desire to improve his defensive game than when he first played for the West Indies. And to be fair, I looked at his Test match average the other day. Since coming back into the side, Blackwood is, well, after today's innings, he got a duck. Blackwood is averaging 32. It might have gone down to 32. It was 33. It might have gone down to 32. And again, that's nothing major. When he got dropped for the West Indies, he was averaging 30. What more can you ask from him? What do you want? You want man to average 35? No West Indian's going to be averaging 35, having played that amount of games as Jermaine Blackwood. Tell me anybody else who's averaging more than 32 who has played that amount of Test matches for the West Indies. So I'm always perplexed when people are like, Blackwood's got to go. And for who? For who? I don't understand. And the same people who will say Blackwood got to go, I tell you who they'll say has to come in? Shea Hope. Shea Hope with a Test match average of 26. You lot make me upset, man. You lot make me upset. So Blackwood ain't going nowhere. Brooks has to go 100%. Mayers has to go. Come on, man. Bonner has to go. What you lot have seen in these first 2 Test matches is why Bonner is so crucial to this side. Because after Craig and Tage, who else in the lineup do you trust to face 100 balls? Would it not be Bonner if he was fit? Come on, man. And I know you lot are going to say, but when he faces high pace, look, man got licked down, now concussion. I hear all that. But in his nascent career, who else in this Test side do you trust to face 100 balls? If not Bonner, then who? Come on, man. You lot be rational. Be rational in your contemplations. Chris says, good evening. Yeah, big up, Chris. T Brown says selectors have a lot to answer for. Yes, I think that's true. And I'm gonna be sorry, T Brown, I'm coming to that question. You lot look at the bare comments in the oh boy. Right, so people, the way I'm doing this live, like I say, is if you put a comment in, I'm just coming to it. If you've come here, if you're coming here to expect me to analyze Australia licking us down in the Adelaide Test, I can't even be bothered. Anyone who's a proper West Indies fan knew what was going to happen in this pink ball Test. How long ago? Those of you who are like long-term fans or supporters, followers of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, I think way back in the summer, I was laughing and joking in gallows humor way on episodes on West Indies on 99.94 saying, when we get to that pink ball Test in Australia, we're going to get licked down. Like anyone with sense knew we were going to get licked down. We were always going to be taking players to that tour who have never been to Australia before. And then on top of that, we go into this Test match with an injury-ravaged side. I want people to tell me what are the Test match side. Obviously, you're not going to say India, but let's just take the teams in the World Test Championship. How many sides could go to Australia and lose 4 of their first choice players, and they're already a weak side? Remember, could lose four of their first choice players, half of their bowling attack at that, and then compete against Australia. We aren't. We're so weak that even at full strength, we'd catch a lick down. You take out 4 of our first choice starters. I can't cuss them. What's the point? There's no point in me cussing them down. Like this margin of defeat in this pink ball Test was expected anyway. Much less you take out 4 first choice players. Like so, I can't even hate on them. It just is what it is, you know. So if you've come for me to like get deep down into analysis, not happening. Anyways, back to T Brown's question. Selectors have a lot to answer for. Well, we've got to take the where do we start? 2.5 years ago, January 2020, Santoki and I were on our podcast saying Tage Naran Chanderpaul should be playing for the West Indies. Tage Naran Chanderpaul should be playing for the West Indies. There's some of you who are in this live right now who will remember me saying on Twitter, because of Tage's ability to soak up balls, he must play for the West Indies. And I remember loads of people commenting at the time saying, nah, who would want to watch Tage and Craig bat because they both soak up balls? There is no West Indian fan now who isn't now going to be singing Tage Chanderpaul's praises, saying, wow, we found an opener. but man was ready 2 years ago. The man was ready 2 years ago. It would have been harder, but he was ready 2 years ago. Do you know how mad it is that we called up Solazano before Tay Shandapur? Do you know how mad that is? And if Solazano hadn't been licked down in Sri Lanka, the concussion thing, Tage might not even be in the side right now. Because Solazano would have got his run, then maybe John Campbell would have come back in, and then it would have been Tage. So it's only circumstances that have even got Tage into the side. So in that sense, yes, selectors have a lot to answer for. The other thing selectors have a lot to answer for is, why did Brooks get in the squad? Why did Roston Chase get picked as the frontline spinner / only spinner? So much to answer for. And the reason why I have to be balanced on this is last year, Roger Harper and Miles Bascom got cussed out to high heaven, largely off the back of the squad that went to the 2021 World Cup, which I had no problem with, by the way, because you lot have now seen what happened a year later in the 2022 World Cup. All the man you lot didn't want in the squad are gone, and we flopped even more in the 2022 World Cup. So last year, Harper and Bascom's got cuss out. You man don't know what you're doing. You're selecting bare rucks, selecting granddads to go to the World Cup. They got cussed out. They lose their jobs. Cool, whatever. Here's why the selectors won't be cussed out now, though. Here's why. Desmond Haynes is a legend of West Indies cricket. People are going to hesitate. They're going to hesitate that little piece before they ever cuss out Desmond Haynes. It will come because eventually everybody gets a cuss out in West Indies cricket. That's the proverb. Everybody will get a cuss out. I'm due a cuss out soon. Yeah. Everyone must get a cuss out, but they're going to hesitate before going for Desmond Haynes' neck. So don't expect it just yet. Don't expect it just yet. Phil's taken the latest cuss out, right? So Pollard got his cuss out. Pooran got his cuss out. Phil's got his cuss out. Monty Desai's got his cuss out. Desmond Haynes will get his cuss out, you know. His time will come because that is how West Indies cricket rolls, you know. Everyone must get it. They will always come for you. Let's move. Vish says, I'll be honest, I don't know what to do with Kyle. He'll score runs semi-often, but a lot of the time he also looks all at sea. Yes, but he also bowls, and he bowls quite effectively. So the question you've got to ask yourself is, can West Indies afford to do without Kyle Mayers bowling? So maybe the issue for Kyle Mayers isn't so much that he only makes runs every now and again. Maybe the issue is where Kyle Mayers is in the side. Should he be batting in the top 5? Maybe that's the actual issue. I'll just throw that out there. I'm not saying that I've got any particular view on it just yet, but maybe that's the issue that we actually need to get into. Where should Kyle actually be in the side? Remember, he actually he didn't play in the first two. Was it the first 2 tests he didn't play against England? They only drafted him back into the side for the 3rd test against England, and then he bowled us to victory. So Kyle Mayer's bowling is actually crucial for the West Indies test side. His batting is hot and cold, but at the end of the day, he's got 2 test match centuries. Some of your faves ain't got that. Do you know what I mean? Chris says, big up Chris. Does anyone else feel that selectors should go with Phil? They've been highly... Well, sorry, Chris. I didn't even realize that you were raising the point I just raised. But then, yeah, Chris, I'll just repeat. It's Desmond Haynes. No one's going for Desmond Haynes' neck. Or if they do, it's not yet. Desmond Haynes' contract runs until, I think it's January 2024. So no one ain't going for his neck just yet. All the players and captains and coaches will get cussed out before Desmond ever gets a cuss out. Jeremy, big up Jeremy, Jezza. From an Australian perspective, it's fair to say Tage, Brathwaite, and Joseph have been terrific. Hugely yeah. So Chase is bowling people. Obviously, we can't the Aussie comms were comparing Nathan Lyon with Roston Chase late on day 3, and I'll defend Roston a bit here and say that's unfair. We're comparing I'm not going to call him like an all-time great, but we're comparing one of the best spin bowlers of this era with Roston Chase, who's what is he? What even is Roston Chase? Let's just call him part-time, yeah? You can't compare Nathan. If you're going to compare Nathan Lyon to Roston Chase, you might as well compare Nathan Lyon to me. Do you know what I mean? So I feel that's a bit unfair. But at the same time, Jez is right to say Chase's bowling just hasn't looked like what? Like it's... Sometimes I ain't got the words, you know. I guess what I would say is that in Chase's defense, he's never toured Australia before. So maybe there's something in there to say, well, you know what? He had to get used to like the bounce. He's got to get used to the lengths you've got to bowl in Australia. And maybe if he tours in 2024 when we go back to Australia again, and maybe if he's in the squad, maybe he'll bowl better. That's the only mitigating explanation I can really give for Roston Chase. Carlos, big up Carlos. Carlos says, I'm speaking from a place of love and logic. It does not matter who we sent to Australia. We're not good enough. Yeah, basically. We could have sent, in fact, even the prime West Indies side, even if they were all at their prime, would have faced a serious battle to beat this Australia side, right? I think that puts it in perspective. There is nobody we could have sent in this modern era that could have done significant with what the tools that we've got available to us. There is no one available to us who could have done significantly better. We would all we'd be quibbling about is maybe losing by 10 runs less or something like that. So it just is what it is. From when I saw we were getting a day-night test, I was like, it's curtains, it's over. So it just is what it is, you know. As I said, for those of you who've been following our content through the series, whether on this channel or on 99.94, we've only passed 250. What was my stat again? We've only bowled out Australia 5 times in the last 7, well, now 19 innings. So in the last 19 innings, we've bowled to Australia. In our last 4 tours, we've only bowled them out 5 times. So what was going to change on this tour? We've only passed 250. Was it 5 times? I can't remember what the stat was I gave. I think it was only 5 times in the last 21 innings against Australia, right? We've been bowled out for less than 259 times in our last 21 innings when we've gone to Australia. Who are we supposed to take? Who are we supposed to take to buck that trend? And some of those stats that I'm calling, that's when we've had better players going to Australia. Whether a Marlon Samuels, a Chris Gale, a Shiv Chandapur, that's when we've had better players. So who are we supposed to take to suddenly undo the years of failure in Australia? It just is what it is, you know. Let's see. Vish says, what, we got so many spinners in the Caribbean. It was flabbergasting they pitched Roston. Yep. I mean, Rakeem, I've been told some stuff about what it was to do with Rakeem. I'm not going to air that. I don't think I'm at liberty to air that. So I'll just leave that alone for now. But even if we leave Rakeem out of the equation, in fact, actually, what I will say about Rakeem, this is one thing I was told, which I think I can say. My understanding is that up until, like, let's say they were due to fly out on Monday. Let's just say hypothetically, right? My understanding was that up until the Friday night, Rakeem was in the squad, had been told he was in the squad, and then like he got a call on like the Saturday morning saying, yeah, you're not in the squad no more. Like it was that type of time window. Let's say it was like, that's not how it went, but it's that type of time window to explain what went on. And I've got that on good authority that Rakeem was actually in the squad, had been told to get ready. He was flying to Australia, and then something changed, which I'm not at liberty to discuss. So what? Maybe they just went to Roston because he was easily available. But like I say, you have to go to your next best spinner. This whole we had to take an off spinner thing, and here's the other thing: even if they were taking an off spinner, why not Brian Charles, who was in the A team? What was the point of Brian Charles playing all those A team games against Bangladesh then? Like, what's the? Let me move. Let me just move. Let me move on because boy. Oh sugar, what have I done here? Where are we? Sorry, people. So Vish says, add to that Australian best batsman, the right-handed. How the hell do they not pick multi? Again, boy, don't know. Korzico says Blackwood really looks convincing to me. I'm not sure about him. No one's ever convinced about Blackwood, right? And the main reason why is because generally speaking, when Blackwood gets out, people believe he's got himself out. But my whole thing about dads is that there are players who significantly underperform compared to Blackwood, but for some reason their names don't get called. Like every time West Indies fell, people call Blackwood's name first, and I find that really odd. I don't know. Like I say, what do you want the man to average? He's averaging 32 upon his recall, right? This is the West Indies we're talking about. What do you want him to average exactly? I don't get it. I don't understand. In fact, actually, if we're gonna go there, 8 minutes left of this live, by the way, people. Then I've got to duck out. But if we're gonna go there, let me just bring up some stats for you lot about Jermaine, because it's always, like I say, it's always important to not just talk off the top of my head. Always got to bring the stats. Okay, right. So in his last, including today, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So in his last 10 Test match innings, including today, Blackwood has hit 1 century, 150. Okay. Now, some of you are obviously going to say, come on, Mash, that's not good enough. And I hear you. I hear you. But by West Indian standards, isn't that normal? Not saying that's not even normal. For some people, that's probably good. 1 century and 150 in his last 10 Test match innings. Like, I don't know. I can't. Obviously, I want it to be more than that, but I'm just realistic by West Indian standards. Well, I don't know. Ain't that about? That's about par. Chris says Brandon King keeps getting left out. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Brandon King has been mismanaged there. That's the phrase. Brandon King has been mismanaged because it's not Brandon King's fault that he's not played 4-day cricket, because they fast-tracked him into, off the back of that Guyana Amazon Warrior season. Brandon King got fast-tracked into our T20 and ODI side, right? At the time he got fast-tracked in, Brandon King was on the cusp of a call-up to the West Indies Red Bull side. And this is why I think our selectors have no sense. It's the same argument I used to make about Puran, but I've deaded the Puran argument now. He has no interest in playing Test cricket, right? Just because a man plays white ball cricket, you have to understand that a lot of West Indies white ball cricket takes place when our domestic season is going on. So you have to think outside the box. Come on, Brandon King's a classy player. Just call man up. If you're going to call Brooks up and he ain't even done nothing to deserve a call up, and you're calling Chase up and he hadn't done anything to deserve a call up, what's to stop you calling Brandon King up then? And much less, Brandon King played one first-class game this season because that's all his West Indies schedule allowed him to play. He banged out a century, then flew off to play for the West Indies. Like, what are you waiting for? He can only play the cricket he can play. Do you know what I mean? Leah says hello, Mash. Yeah, big up, Leah. Here we go. I knew it. Every time I do a live, this argument must always come up. Why is Shea Hope not in the West Indies squad? Shea Hope averages 26 in Test cricket. That said, I do think Shea deserves one more chance. Maybe you'll get more than one, but I do think that they'll have to call him back eventually. So all those people are saying stuff like, "Oh, Jermaine Blackwood's not good enough to." Okay, cool. Like I say, who you gonna call instead? I do think Shea will get another chance at some point, but his previous record means that he can't just get back into the side. But if I was Shea Hope, I'd be looking at Shamar Brooks and Roston Chase and saying, well, they got back into the side without having to do much to get back in. So why can't I get back into the side? Because I'm a very good ODI batter. So I get the argument. I get it. But I'd rather be seeing a Brandon King get a chance in Test cricket or a Casey Carty get a chance before we turn to Shea again. We are inevitably going to turn to Shea again at some point, but I'd like to see some other batters get their chance first. Yep, so that's just backing up the Brandon argument. Leah says, am I late for drooling over Tage? Nope. Tage has taken his chance, and Tage will be playing Test cricket now for the whole for the all 6 Test matches we get in 2023. Tage will be playing all of them. Where are we? Let's see. Thomas says, I don't know why I forgot about King. He really should be in the squad. Yep. Let's see. The Zimbabwe tour will tell us a lot. Remember, I think if you lot have forgotten, in the new year, there's that UAE T20, and then there's the South Africa T20. Remember that, like, players like Mayers, Holder, Alzari, who else is in our test squad? Did Jaden Seals get a big bag? So some of our test squad have either got a UAE big bag, or more importantly, they got the South Africa big bag. Now, if they got the South Africa big bag, the dates for that Zimbabwe tour are yet to be announced. It wouldn't surprise me if those who play in that South Africa T20 competition maybe don't play in the Zimbabwe series. Maybe they'll get rested for Zimbabwe and then come back for South Africa. I just wouldn't be surprised. Okay, I wouldn't be surprised. We might catch some licks in Zimbabwe, you know. Javid says, I can't stay long, but do we have young players that average more than 25 in our first class system? Right, the next the next set of young players that should be on West Indies' horizon in terms of batters. So I'll give you three. These three players are the next three, I think, that will be on the horizon at some point in the next 2 years, or should be. Casey Carty, Alec Athanaze, Tevin Imlach. I think the next 2 years, they'll be somewhere on the West Indian horizon in terms of selection as batters. And then in terms of bowlers, well, I mean, they're not under 25, but we'll call them. Marquino Minley got flown out for a reason. He was always going to be next in line. I think Jeremiah Louis might be next in line as a bowler. If we have, like, say, Seals and Roach can't make whatever next tour we're on, I wouldn't be surprised to see Jeremiah Louis get a chance, as well as a Marquino Mindley. And then maybe an outside chance would be Sherman Lewis. He went on that Netherlands tour. He's played a bit of 18 cricket. I wouldn't be surprised to see Sherman Lewis, sorry, get a chance as well. But that doesn't necessarily answer the under 25 thing. Remember that in West Indies cricket, so Tej is 26, right? Remember that in West Indies cricket, other countries under 25s is our players reaching 27. You always have to remember that it takes much longer for our players to mature due to the nature of our first class system. Yeah, Mass 88 says, remember India got bowled out for 36 in Adelaide with all of their best players. Yeah, that's the other thing that we have to remember about this test match and this tour in general. Like England went to Australia last year and got laying down 4-0 in that 5-match test series. So again, Santoki and I are going to be recording an episode about this, but with respect to all of my West Indian Caribbean brethren, we have a lot of irrational, hot take, no sense fans. And some of you might even be in this live right now, but we do have a lot. A man will cuss and get on bad about how everyone deserves to be sacked because of how we're going to lose in Adelaide, and then not consider that, but everybody gets laying down by the Australians. Why were we going to suddenly do any better? All we could go to this tour and do was not lose by many, or not get completely annihilated. And I would argue that in the first test, we didn't get completely annihilated. We tried our best to compete. And then in this test, with all of our injury woes, we're going to get annihilated. But that's about right, because we got injury woes. It's just, like, hi. Let's move. 5 Ambo, Rambo, 5 Fambo. Anyways, love the podcast. Big up Fambo. Share the podcast, like, share, subscribe, all of that jazz. Let people know who don't know. What's this? Am I getting near the end now? Might wrap this up in 10 minutes. Carlos says Chase as a frontline spinner is indefensible. You can't tell me that we shouldn't replace. Oh, interesting. You know what, Carlos? I'm gonna feed you to the fishes. You lot. Carlos says we must replace Bonner. He's been found out and he's a walking wicket. You know what, Carlos? I might have to feed him to the lions. Feed him to the lions. Might have to feed you to the lions. One second. The reason why I'm pausing is because I want to bring up some stats about Nkrumah Bonner, which I think is important to add before we unpick that. Now, here's why Carlos has a point. This is so I always love to bring balance, right? Because Carlos isn't just saying this for saying this sake. In Nkrumah Bonner's last 7 test match innings, so we're going from the last 2 tests of the England series, the 2 versus Bangladesh, and then obviously the lick down in Australia. These are his scores going from the Kensington Oval test onwards. 9, 3, 4, did not bat. 33, duck, did not bat. 60 not out, laying down. Right. So in his last 7 innings at bat, yeah, he hasn't scored many runs. Okay, so no 50s, no 100s in his and lots of ducks. What was that? 2 ducks? 2 ducks in the last 7 test match innings. Again, let me just put on this. You always have to remember that we are talking about the West Indies here and not another test match side. Then once you get past those last 7 innings, you then see, if I then go the next 7 before that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, he's got 2, 1, 68 not out, 35, 44, 123, 38 not out. My point basically being this: Bonner still has a lot of credit in the bank. I think it's harsh to say he's now a walking wicket. And it must be remembered as well. Here's the other thing we must always remember about Bonner. He's played 25 test match innings. Of those 25, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them, he's batted 100 balls or more. So of the 25 test match innings Bonner has played, he's batted 10 of those, he's batted 100 balls or more. If I go a bit further, 5 of those, he's batted 200 balls or more. My point is this: we are in no position as a test match side to already throw a man on the scrap heap who's got the rare ability to actually soak up balls. So that's where I'm at. I hear your argument. I hear your argument, but he's still got credit in the bank for me. He's still got credit. Anyways, the Lions are in the chat, so they can come for you, Carlos. T Brown says only injured, maybe New Zealand could compete against Australia with injuries. Yep. We, like I say, we saw England get laying down last year 4-0. So why would we compete? I don't understand. Where are we? Just see if there's any more comments. Oh, good. You lot, someone's come for Carlos's neck. I'm not involved, Carlos. I was just reading your comment. Have we had that one? Is there any? Wait, Visual? No. What's this? Visual? What's this? What do you mean, Carl Hope? Even if you meant Shay Hope, I don't know what you're talking about. Let me take that one off the screen. Thomas says Bonner hasn't done enough for a drop, and Shay certainly ain't the answer. Brandon King is a better response for sure, but yeah, I think I can get behind Brandon King getting a call up for the Zimbabwe tour. But did Brandon get one of those T20 bags for UAE or South Africa? I don't think he did. But yeah, I would call Brandon King up for Zimbabwe, certainly to be part of the squad. Javed says, do you think some people are also cussing out the selectors because they think we could win in Australia? There can be no West Indian fan who thought we were going to win in Australia. There can be none. If there is, I need you lot to find them and tell them to come on Caribbean Cricket Podcast and talk me through show me their working out as to how they thought it was possible. So 007 says, we've got to learn that there are certain pitches for certain players. I said it before, Bonner is a walking wicket. Right. I'm going to address this point now. Bonner is a walking wicket. Okay. But did he lose his wicket? Or do you mean he's a walking concussion? What do you actually mean? Because Bonner he was not out, He was 16 not out of 40-odd balls, and then he retired hurt. So I think we got to lose the phrase walking wicket here. If you mean Bonner is susceptible to high pace, okay, fine, I hear that. But then, who else on this tour isn't susceptible to high pace? You can't say Bonner is a walking wicket and then look at the rest of the middle order on this tour and then not call them walking wickets as well. And then if you call the rest of the middle order walking wickets, so who isn't a walking wicket? You're going to have to do better than that argument for me. Like, sometimes, with respect, sometimes I feel that it's too easy for us as West Indian fans to say, this man is a rucks, this man is a rucks, this man is a rucks. By the time you get through the side, we've called 8 of the 11 men a rucks. So who's playing then? If we keep calling everyone a rucks, who's playing? So sometimes you have to accept that even if you think a man is a rucks, we ain't got the bench strength to be calling every single player a rucks. That's why I can't get behind the Blackwood argument. The man averages 32. You lot want to chuck slander at his name like that's no good, yet you want to then shout names to me of people who average 26. That don't make no sense, man. It don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. Anyways, who's next? T Brown says selectors don't rate Jimbo because his weight. This is facts. Here's facts, people. Since the selectors changed, one thing has been clear: Rakeem Cornwall's not in the side no more. Now, some of you, if you can call me the stats and the facts, and I'd agree to an extent, and say, oh, but Rakeem Rakeem came under scrutiny after that Sri Lanka tour because he went as the premier frontline spinner and he didn't really do much. And I can hear that. I can definitely hear that argument. But what's been clear to me is in 2022, Rakeem Cornwall is no longer in our test match squad. Okay. He's is it a fattest thing? Is it because Rakeem's not taking his weight seriously? Is it because Rakeem isn't taking his fitness regimen carefully? Is it because he's got certain targets he's got to reach and he's not meeting them? But either way, the only thing we can say for certain is that in 2022, Rakeem Cornwall ain't been in any side. Yet the cold hard facts say that Rakeem Cornwall is the best spinner in the Caribbean. So you lot make sense of it. Rakeem Cornwall took the most wickets in this year's shortened first-class season. What is the point of the man taking the most wickets if he's not going to get a test call-up? What are you telling man? You're telling man to forget about West Indies. That's what you're telling man. And then more importantly, even if that's what you're saying, what does it say to our standards then if that the person who takes the most wickets domestically you don't think is good enough for West Indies? So doesn't that mean that everyone he's bowling out is a rucks then? This is madness. They need to call me up. Cricket West Indies need to hire me, real talk. Because no one could ever cuss me out because I'd be cussing them out before they could ever come for my neck. I would fight fire with fire. I'd have justification and analysis and data to talk all my talk. This is where they go wrong as selectors. Come with the data. That's how you shut a man up. Come with the data, the facts and the stats, and they can never come for your neck. Anyways, let's move. Tom says, has Shea Holt been found out, though? He's averaging 25. Averaging 25 after 40 tests. How is his name still even called? Yeah, Tom, I think all the while Shea is still our go-to batter in ODI cricket, he will always be called. I'm still in favour of Shea getting one more chance. I just don't know when he should get that chance, but I do think he should get one more at some point, because you have to remember for Shea as well that Shea's also got the Brandon King problem, which is that most of the time Shea's playing for us, it seems to always coincide with our first class season. So how are players like Shea and Brandon supposed to put the numbers up that get them back into it? Or sorry, not even in Brandon's case, not even back in, just in. How do they get into the squad if they don't play the format of cricket because they're playing for West Indies? Like, it's a massive conundrum. Right, Sumit, you lot have, I told you lot I got places to be, and you're killing me with the comments. Sumit, big up Sumit. So point number one, structure of world cricket means teams like West Indies can't compete consistently, 100%. Most teams get obliterated in Australia, 100%. West Indies have lots of structural issues and the fixes are straightforward, 100%. All of that's true. Point four, having said that, West Indies could have made better decisions in selection, yep, and some on-field decisions to be more competitive. Yeah, I agree. I think all four of your points are 100% correct, Sumit. With point four, would that have made us win any matches? No, but it might have made the margin of defeat smaller. So yeah, I'm generally in agreement with you. 007 says, what about Mindley? So Marquino Mindley's flight itinerary would have been Jamaica, probably Kingston to Miami. He may have gone to LA, but let's just say Miami. Kingston to Miami, Miami to either Qatar or Dubai, and then a flight to Australia, right? That would have taken him 2 days. He would have got the call at the last minute because they wouldn't have known that Roach and Seals were likely to break down until the final day of the test match, right? One of Roach or Seals breaking down would have been manageable because Anderson Phillip would have just come in. Obviously, by the 5th test match, they probably got the results from Roach's scan at the end of the first test match. The turnaround's only 5 days. What were they supposed to... I can't put this one on West Indies. What were they supposed to do? You have to call a man to fly, but it just shows you about the Caribbean. Like, we have to fly to America, then fly to next place, then fly to next place. Of course, man got injured. And I saw some people like saying stuff like, this just shows West Indies players aren't fit. Listen, you put any professional athlete on a flights that take 2 days, then give him 1 day of warming up, 1 day in the nets. He ain't even worked off the jet lag yet. He probably ain't match fit. And remember, he ain't even match fit. I think it's it's unfortunate he got injured, but probably would have happened to most players. The only issue I had with Mindley's selection, And Minley is the next player on the rank in terms of fast bowlers, by the way, so that's fine. But the only issue I had with Minley's selection was that Marquino only played one match in Super 50 for Jamaica Scorpions. So where was the part where the selectors said, is my man really match fit for this though? He only just played one match in the winning Scorpion side in Super 50. So there is that issue for me. Why did they not go with someone who had played most of the matches in Super 50, so was likely to be more match ready? That's not to say that the 2-day flight thing wouldn't have messed them up as well, but that's the only question mark I have. Okay. Medvis, big up Medvis, big up Detroit in the house. The only real tactic for improving is for our players playing off 100%. Blackwood and Brooks should be up for a drop, but who replaces them? Who wants to bat out? Exactly, 100% about batting 150 balls. What I would say for playing more 4-day, and again, this is the mitigating factors for Cricket West Indies. We haven't played, hear this now, people, and a lot of, again, this is the type of stuff that a lot of people don't take into consideration. Anybody who's not in this live and you think needs to hear this, tell them to fast forward to minute 51 when I drop this banger right now. We haven't played a full first-class red ball season in the Caribbean since the 2018-19 season. How about that? And yet still, you'll have people come on here or in Mason Guest Talk Show, Sports Max, cuss out in the media, this, that, and the other. And yet still they'll be like, oh, these are the problems in West Indies cricket, without noticing that we haven't played a full 10-round first-class season since 2018-19. And if you're wondering, Mash, what are you talking about? Let me tell you. 2019-20 was the COVID season. Everything got called off at round number 8. So the players only played 8 matches. 2020-21, no cricket. Nobody played cricket anywhere in the Caribbean. 21-22, no cricket. Nobody played any cricket in the Caribbean. It's only this year that 4-day cricket has returned. And even then, it was a 5-round season. So we haven't played a full round of red ball cricket in 3 full seasons. And so what does that mean, people? Where have they been learning to play their red ball cricket? In international cricket, people. And then people want to say to me, our batting coach is a rux. Phil Simmons is a rux. I'm not saying that's not true. But what I am saying is, put any other international side in that situation where no one plays a full round of first-class cricket for 3 years. 3 years. And then you expect them to come to Australia and perform. I ought to lick down everybody who comes with the foolishness, you know. When you come on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, people, you best know I'm coming with context. I'm coming with the actual information that we need to be discussing. A man can't just magically become good by not playing the format of cricket that they're then going to have to play internationally. It don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. Fam. I should end the video right there, you know. Because... Hi. Anyways, people, Carlos, I've gone all the way down to the bottom. Carlos says 60 odd viewers and only 5 likes? You mean to tell me I've just been chatting for this long and 5 likes? Every single person who's in the live right now needs to press that like button. And you see, when I lock off this live in about 5 minutes, you also need to share it in your WhatsApps, in your Facebook groups, and say, you know what? This is where you need to go to hear sense on West Indies cricket, and say, watch the whole 50 minutes or 45 minutes or whatever it is, because this is where you're going to hear people throwing in the comments that make sense and us having the discussions that make sense. Let me take maybe 2 or 3 more comments, and I do have to lock this off. Where was I? I was at Medvis, wasn't I? Boy, I'm scrolling up and I can't even find Medvis' comment. You know, that's how long the comments go on for. I lost Medvis' comment. Lord of mercy. Where is he? Oh my God, Oh, was it? Yeah, here we go. Okay, let me try and take a few more comments, people. Javid says Multi would have got licked down too, but the experience would have done him good. Yeah, that goes back to my point about you've got to think about long-term planning. Sometimes when you make selections, it's not about the here and now of winning the test series. You've got to think about who do you plan to be going forward with in the next year to 2 years, and how are you going to, like, so when we go to Australia in 2024, a couple of these men who are currently in the squad are going to be like 36, right? Are you still planning for them to be in your squad? And if not, have you therefore missed an opportunity to blood a youngster who could have benefited from being on tour, playing in some tour matches, so on and so forth? I like, where's our long-term sense, man? Yep, Carlos, I'm not disagreeing. I do think that's why people get on Blackwood's back. He's gonna hold a drop again, you know. But I just don't think his time is yet. Um, Andrew says in 10 innings, elite players average 1 century and 250s. I think that must be in comment response to me saying that in Blackwood's last 10 innings, he's got 1 century and 150. And people are saying he must hold the drop before anybody else. Medvis. So Medvis, I think it might have been Tom. I don't know if it was Tom. Pardon me if it was someone else. Said, am I going to do a cuss out video on Jason Holder? Fam, the streets are calling for me to do it. But you see, if I do that video, Mia will make sure I can never get into Barbados. So I've got to think about my long-term prospects here. Can I really do a video on Jason Holder's form and expect to ever get into Barbados? So people, it may come, but I'm just thinking about my long-term safety. Tom says Holder's had a bad year, but not even any questions about his place. Yeah, exactly. And that's my point, Tom. Holder's, when you look at Holder's numbers, it's not been good by his lofty standards. But he's Jason Holder at the end of the day. Like, we're just not dropping him, are we? So that's why I feel not to do the video, because I can do it, but come on, who are we dropping Jason Holder for, really and truly? 007 says for Zimbabwe, Blood King at 3, Athenaeus at 5, Carty at 6. So what, you're dropping half the team? Fam, let me not talk. Will says Athenaeus' first class average is 27. Will, let me tell you something about West Indies first class cricket. That's par. That's par. And that's why I always make that point. When people say stuff like drop this man, drop that man, drop next man, like what you drop him for exactly? You're dropping for potential, because it can't be actual numbers. Okay, where am I? Yeah, last two comments, if I can find them. I just lost Will's comment as well, you know. There it is. Vish says Jide Gooley. Yes, he may well be better than those three. But Vish, go and look at Jide Gooley's numbers. How many matches has he played for Trinidad in the last 4 years? So don't get me wrong, I'm all for calling someone up based on potential. But if you're not even playing for your regional side, how are you just going to fast track into the international scene? It don't make no sense. Shekar, big up Shekar, by the way. Keegan Simmons, I forgot about Keegan. He had an all right Super 50, didn't he? But again, Keegan Simmons, what's Trinidad doing with Keegan Simmons? Anyways, that's another story. I should do a cuss out on Trinidad and how they ain't promoting the youth, and that we could talk about the regional sides not promoting their youth properly. You know, that's another video I need to be doing. Ramon Simmons, yeah. Hopefully we already have a plan in mind of how to blood the youth going forward. But I guess West Indies cricket, man. Do you know what I mean? Carlos says we're ignoring the elephant in the room. Why aren't we concerned about the level of fitness in this team? Half the team injured after one test match, not good enough. But here's the joke, Carlos. Here's the joke. How many people were cussing when West Indies were saying that they were insisting on fitness? So it's a really interesting balance here. People are saying, oh, the fitness test, and you're trying to, let's use Hetmeyer as an example. How many men over the last year or so, year and a half or so, was like, they're trying to fight down Hetmeyer, man's fit, and now we go on tour, 5 man out or 4 man out injured, and you're saying, what about what's going on with the fitness? But isn't that why the standards are there then? Isn't that what the standards are about? So how do we balance this off? Shakar says, in terms of bowling, West Indies haven't yet replaced Gabriel. Yeah, true, 100%. Alzari slowly developing, but Alzari is not at a point yet where he should be a new ball bowler. One day he will be, but he's not there yet. And yeah, so I think Shakar's point's right. But don't get Shakar's point twisted. That doesn't mean that we must immediately turn back to Shannon, although we probably will. but we don't have many out and out quicks who can bowl a hostile spell. Look at Labuschagne, right? The one time in this series where Labuschagne has actually looked like he might be in trouble is when Alzari cranked it up, dropped in some short balls, and got hostile on him. But how many bowlers in the Caribbean do we actually have like that? So yeah, we haven't. Shikar's right. We haven't really replaced Gabriel as yet. Okay, I'm gonna have to just fast forward now and just pick one or couple, two more points. I might not have time now. Jonathan says, Mash, hope you're well. Have the answer to West Indies' problems. Lose in Australia, then win at home. Yeah. Listen, and the thing is, I mean, Jonathan's put some laughing emojis. Sorry, then start whacking it and winning. But do you know what, Jonathan? I will just say, West Indies aren't in a position yet to go away anywhere really in the world and win test matches. And sorry, that's harsh. We beat in the last 3 years. We've beaten Afghanistan away in India. We beat Bangladesh in Bangladesh. I think that's it. Right, that's it. We're not in any position to be going anywhere else in the world, and like even Zimbabwe. It wouldn't surprise me if we lose to Zimbabwe. To be fair, but we're not yet in a position in world cricket where we can go to a top 7 side and laying them down in their own conditions. I'm still of the viewpoint that West Indies need to just get to a point where we don't lose at home, and that's what we've got better at, right? Laying down England at home, laying down Bangladesh at home. Pakistan didn't beat us at home. Obviously, South Africa laying us down, but you can't. Oh, I mean, drew Sri Lanka at home. The first step to becoming a better test side is don't lose at home. We'll worry about trying to get better away when we can become consistent at not losing at home. This will all come in time. Obviously, we have a new head coach coming up, so it'll be very interesting to see who they go with. Will says, why not play De Silva at 3-4-5? I've heard that argument before. So who takes the gloves? I'm not going to, I might have to do a separate video just on Josh, because that is a big argument I've seen a lot of people talk about. Who do we give the gloves to? Or are you saying, should we be playing Josh just as a batter? That's another video for another day. But right now, I can't get into it because I'm looking at the time and I've got to kind of bounce in a bit. Right, I'm going to scroll all the way down. Sorry if I haven't got your questions, by the way, people. I'm just really mindful of time. 007 says, would you sacrifice the 3 T20s in South Africa for an extra test? No. Not at all. Oh, actually... whatever, really. I don't think I've really got a point on it. Who else? Bring Dowrich in as a pure batter and Hamilton as keeper. But 007, you just said you want King in the team, Athanaze in the team, Carty in the team. Now you're saying Dowrich and Hamilton and De Silva. So where's Craig? Where's Tage? Come on, man. You can't just bring everyone into the side. Give me your 11, but not now because I'm about to leave. Right, people. I think that's it. I think that's actually it. Okay. Last point from Osprey, the very last comment in the chat. So Osprey 17 says, whatever the selectors do, I see the January 2024 tour to Australia being far worse than this tour. West Indies have only 6 tests in 2023 to prepare for it. Aussies have 15, and therein is the whole issue. Big up Osprey for coming in right at the end to give the wider context. And Santoki spoke about this on Twitter. This year, we have played 6 test matches. Forget 2023. Let's just look at 2022. England came to us. Oh, no, sorry, we played 7, because England gave us 3 because we saved their cricket, right? England came to us in a 3-match test series and we lenged them down 1-0. Bangladesh came to us for 2 and we lenged them down 2-0. We haven't played a test match since June. That means between June and now in December, we had no test match cricket, and our only prep was getting them all together for a camp 2 weeks before this Australia series. Teams like Australia, teams like India, teams like England get bare test matches. And then you have West Indian fans saying, why are these men not playing good enough? Where's our cricket, fam? And it's much bigger than just Cricket West Indies put us some test matches on. It's about the wider structures of the whole game. The whole game is fucked. And next year it's the same. We go to Zimbabwe for 2 test matches. I'm going to try and fly out to Zimbabwe, by the way, people. Stay locked in for that because I've got some plans. We go to Zimbabwe for 2 test matches. We go to South Africa for 2 test matches. And then we don't... Who do we have next year? Then we have someone in the summer. I can't even remember who. That's it. That's it. How are our test match players supposed to develop? And remember, even before I look at next year, all of this year, preceding it, no real first-class cricket. And then we want people to say, go to Australia and compete. Let me lock off this live. I'm done. People, I'm locking off this live. I've got to go watch football. Got to go do some media reporting on today's game. Bromley versus Wildstone in the National League. I'm out, people. Thank you for jumping in the live, though. Get at me on Twitter if you'd like to see me do this tomorrow, maybe after Australia laying us down on day 4. Then get at me. We might do... Santoki and I are recording some stuff for West Indies on 99.94. We may do a live, I don't know. But just get at me on Twitter, people, if you think you want me, if you'd like me to just drop some more lives. This one was very much a you show. And maybe this is the way these things should just go. It's just somewhere for West Indian fans to come, drop your comments in the chat, cuss each other out. I'll get your comments up live and we just respond to it like that. But big up all of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. If you're in the Caribbean, enjoy your whole day. Obviously, you've just really woken up properly. Those of you in the UK, let's go enjoy our afternoons. And those of you who are anywhere else in the world, yeah, big up yourselves as well. See you soon. And stay locked in for more content on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Like the video before you go, share it, subscribe to it. Let's get this channel growing, help the algorithms. Peace. See you later.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.